Hi, it's Doug. When I was 8 years old, my dad came home from work and presented me with a little packet of these. These are pumpkin seeds, he said. We're going to plant one of these seeds in our garden, you and me. But these weren't just any pumpkin seeds. My dad had grown ordinary pumpkins before. I'd seen them in his garden. Now, if you didn't know this, pumpkins grow on vines, like you see here. And like any plant, they need sunlight, and pumpkins need to be watered every day. So when we planted one of the seeds from the packet, we gave it water every day, just like we were supposed to. Soon we planted it in the garden. But the pumpkin from my dad's packet of seeds grew, and it grew, and it grew, eventually getting this big. This was getting crazy. I'd never seen a pumpkin like this. And I knew something about pumpkins. You see, I grew up in a town called Sycamore, Illinois. And in Sycamore, we're all a little bit crazy about pumpkins. Every year, the town has a pumpkin festival where we decorate and display pumpkins on our courthouse lawn. Our city flag even has a pumpkin on it. Dad, I said, we should take our giant pumpkin up to the courthouse. My dad got a big smile. You read my mind, he said. You see, that was my goal all along. I knew how big this pumpkin would grow. You did? I said. Yep. Remember the seeds I bought? He said. Those weren't just ordinary pumpkin seeds. They were a special variety of pumpkin called giant pumpkins. Whoa. Wait, there are different kinds of pumpkins? I asked my dad. Oh, yeah, he explained. Just like there are different varieties of apples at a grocery store. Now, as it turned out, my dad had heard that there would be a giant pumpkin competition that year at the Sycamore Pumpkin Festival, and he thought we should give it a try. By the time it had finished growing, it was really so big that neither of us could possibly lift it up. I couldn't even fit my arms around it. We had to get some of my dad's friends to come over so that they could all lift it together and carefully load it in the back of a truck. We won that year. It weighed 200 pounds. The largest pumpkin in Sycamore for the year 1988. I was so proud. I even have a trophy from it, still to this day. How did there come to be such enormous, gigantic pumpkins in the first place? As you might guess by now, if you've learned about selection, it all started with an original, regular-sized pumpkin. Using the process of selection, plant growers, people who grow plants, have over time created new varieties of pumpkins, some of which are bigger and bigger. My giant pumpkin at 200 pounds is not the largest pumpkin ever, not even close. In the time since I grew my giant pumpkin in 1988, these days you can buy seeds for a pumpkin variety that will grow to be 2,000 pounds. That's the same weight as a baby elephant. That means that giant pumpkins are now officially the largest fruit ever. This is the first time anyone has tried to make a fruit so gargantuan. But it's definitely not the first time that plant growers have tried to make fruits bigger in general. Size is actually one of the most common traits that plant growers use selection to try to improve. Like, here is one of my favorite examples of people changing plants. This is a painting from about 400 years ago. And can you tell what that is? You might not even recognize it, but these are watermelons. Getting to see the old painting is almost like getting into a time machine and going back in time. It gives you a glimpse at what watermelons used to look like before we used selection to create the watermelons we grow today. Back 400 years ago, there wasn't as much of the watermelon that you could actually eat. Most of it was that white rind part, which doesn't taste very good. Watermelons today, you can eat all of the insides. It's so tasty. It's one of my favorite plants to eat. What about other fruits and vegetables? What did these look like before selection? You might not recognize this little fruit. Maybe you think it's a cherry. Nope. This is the original wild version of a fruit you know well. Let's see what it looks like today, after we've done selection on it to make it bigger. It's a peach. So the original wild peaches used to be much smaller. Or here's a vegetable you know. I doubt you can recognize it in its original wild form here, But let me show you what it looks like today, after we've done selection on it to make it bigger. It's corn. Isn't that crazy? Plant growers have created different varieties of almost every fruit and vegetable you'd see in a store. There really isn't a single plant that we grow which is anything like the original natural version of that plant. We've changed all of them through the process of selection. So now, just for fun, if you were to become a plant grower and you could use selection to create a giant variety of any plant, which one would you choose to make bigger?